How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? We are back today in the garage, and I've got some terrible news for you. Terrible news. This right here is the lower off of my AR that I have in a majority of my videos. It is also my go-to workhorse AR, and it had one slight problem, and that was when I would hold it for a long time in the ready position, it would cut into my finger a little bit. Had a cheapy trigger guard on there, so I went to change the trigger guard. And if any of you have experience doing that, you know that sometimes that roll pin gets stuck. And when that roll pin gets stuck and you're impartial to using extreme amounts of force, sometimes you break that ear off, that lower piece there. So, not good. As you can also see, this was a painted lower. I painted it on the rifle, so you got the leaf right there. It was looked pretty slick at the time, if you ask me. So, you know what that means. I'm gonna be putting a new lower together, and that gives me the opportunity to try something I've wanted to try for a while now, and we're gonna give it a shot. I'm sure you've heard of cerakoting. Many people have cerakoting done on their firearms. I've got a lot of cerakoted parts on my guns. But we're not going to do that because I don't have the ability to cerakote. What I do have the ability to do is powder coat, which is a similar process. Not 100% the same, but similar. It's a lot more durable than paint. I have right here to my left 2 new AR stripped lowers. And before we throw anything together, we're going to powder coat them. I've got a matte green powder coat that I think should work just fine for this application. So we're going to throw her in the good old Control Machinery ultrasonic cleaner. Get them stripped of all grease and all that good stuff. Get them ready to coat, and then we're going to coat them. And we're going to see, is powder coating gun parts a viable option, or is it stupid? I don't know. We're about to either successfully coat or destroy 2 lowers. Let's find out. I also have this here aluminum handguard that I've had coated and painted a couple different colors. I'm holding it with a pick right now because it's about 300 degrees. I just baked some stuff off of it, so she's ready to coat as well. So let's get to it. Alrighty, they are done cooking in here. This is not the standard procedure for this method. And we'll give them a quick little air blast to dry them off. And just to make sure they're dry, let's throw these dudes in the oven for just a minute. And while those dudes are cooking, we'll get the powder coat gun set up real quick. This is my gun. It's an Eastwood Hot Coat PCS 250. I've got the regulator on there. You want to run about 3 to 5 PSI through there. Then of course you got your ground clamp, which you clamp to the frame or whatever you're powder coating on, and your static trigger. You press that while you're spraying. That, I don't know if there's an actual word for this, staticify, I don't know. Put static electricity over the powder, helps it stick to the part as it's falling through the air. Here is the powder we will be using. It's flat green from Prismatic Powders. It bakes at 10 minutes at 400 degrees. And of course that time starts once the part is up to temp. So you don't just throw it in for 10 minutes. You throw it in, wait for that powder to run out or get glossy. You can tell it's starting to melt. Best way to do it is to use a thermal gun and check the temperature of the part, make sure it's at 400. Then from that point you wait 10 minutes. Moving right along, I got both of our lowers back out of the oven. They're completely dry, so we're good to go. You can see on this one on the left, I got all the holes for pins and such plugged. And I'm going to do that to the one on the right. I just wanted to show you here which all ones you probably ought to hit. And of course I left this guy open because that's where my hanger is going to go to hang it on the rack. I forgot to mention, one of the main reasons we put plugs in these guys is because, similar to paint, but a little bit worse, powder coating has a certain thickness to it. So on some of these pinholes and roll pin holes and the like, the tolerances are already pretty tight, so we don't want to make those tolerances any tighter by adding a couple mils of powder coat. So we go ahead and just keep that stuff out of there. Without further ado, I think these guys are ready to get hung up and start putting powder on them. Alrighty, let's take the handguard out. I'm feeling a little bit overconfident, so I'm gonna try to record this and do this with one hand. This couldn't possibly go wrong. Gotta hook this little hole, pick her up just a wee bit. Oh, taking my metal plate with me down on the bottom. That was my little stand plate. Make sure it could stand up on the rack. There's your finished product. Doesn't look perfect. I'm a little light there on the bottom, but pretty good. These matte powder coats seem to be kind of a pain in the butt. Now, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm not an expert. I've only done this a handful of times, but these matte ones seem to be a little bit thicker, I think is what it is. I'm not really sure. And the aluminum is not helping. I don't know why, but it doesn't seem to get that static charge that, like car parts that I'm normally doing, the car parts that are not aluminum get when I put them on the rack. So that kind of sucks, but you can get around it a little bit by heating your parts up prematurely and then spraying powder on it once it's hot. That's called hot flocking. Anywho, up next, let's get those receivers in there, get them baking, and see how they turn out. And there you have it. 2 flat green lowers fresh out of the oven. Let's let these puppies cool down a wee bit, and we'll take them inside and assemble one of them. And there you have it, folks. She is all assembled and back together. You can see that green of the powder coat matches pretty good with the rest of the painted AR. And it doesn't look terrible, so I like it. And of course, this is going to be a lot more durable. You can see where this paint's already coming off the hand grip, the ejector, deflector, whatever that thing's called. So yeah, does it look a little bit goofy with the matte green lower and camo, everything else? A little bit, but it'll function just fine. It'll be real durable. I'm happy with it. Of course, I could not show putting it back together because I believe YouTube bans all that stuff. I don't know why they're against educational science, but you know, whatever. Anywho, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more goodness and to see if this guy functions in the future. I'm sure I'll be shooting it in the near future. And I'll see you in the next one.